Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew with James Kirkland.
Powerful and provocative, prophetic and practical,
Have you ever found yourself?
Are you dating for that purpose?
informative and
I feel
inspirational.
every bit of that. Like, I'm not trying to waste my
How you gonna do better if you don't know what better looks like? I do.
Intellectual stew.
Come on, let's talk about it with me, the mind massager.
Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew with James Kirkland. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew with James Kirkland. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew.
Y'all scared to speak.
Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew with James Kirkland. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew.
All right, that's enough of that. What's up? What it do? Time for another episode of the Intellectual Stew with yours truly, James Kirkland. Do me a favor, if you will. Will you please share this thread? Viola's already spoken. How are you doing, ma'am? Thank you for your continued support. I'm trying to get all my stuff together. For your continued support, you're always there, and I appreciate you for your encouraging words and everything that you do. So, but as you come in, say hello, say what's up, say how you doing, say happy. Hey, Patricia, say happy belated birthday to me. Y'all, if you want to send me a cash, no, I'm just joking. But how about y'all? How about my little sister, your Sarah, Patricia, wish me a happy 60th birthday today. 60 for real? I look that bad? I mean, not that bad. I look that old, but no, I'm not 60. I'm happily 52 years young. I feel old sometimes, but 52 years old. She called me 60, and I know my sister Kim Fox. You know Kim. Kim's a few years younger than you. I'm not gonna tell your age, but she's a few years younger than you. But Kim Fox, that's out of Pine Bluff. That's my little sister, biological sister. We got the same mom and everything. But I've been gone most of her life since I've been gone, going on right around 29 years, and I think she's a little over 40. So, but yeah, she wished me a 60th birthday. Are you not? I thought you were AKA. I'm sorry, my bad. I thought you were AKA. I don't know what. Thank you, Happy James. Hope you enjoyed your birthday. Happy James. I am happy. I appreciate you for that. But no, how are y'all doing? I wanted to go to church yesterday. I was dressed and everything. My son, I knew he was going to propose to his fiance, girl, Viola. So it's her. Sorry, I'm sorry. I knew he was going to. I got it. I'm up now. I'm up. I knew he was going to propose to his girlfriend, so I went to his proposal at Canoe Restaurant yesterday at 10 o'clock, and I had every intention of leaving after the proposal. Not that I was in a hurry to leave. I was just going to go to church. That's just what I do. I mean, on Sunday morning, I go to church, so I'm there all black on because it's first Sunday. And I'm going to tell you something, this parenting thing, I tell people all the time that parenting is on the job training, right? And we, like most of us, I know y'all are perfect. I'm James. I mean, I'm your friend. I'll tell you the truth. But most of us probably get it wrong on the first child, right? Because we're experimenting. It's on the job training. But that baby, boy, that baby will get you right. She'll make you parent the right way, man. So it was funny yesterday. I was getting ready to leave. After the pictures were over with and we saw the proposal, I was about to. What's up, Elder Lisa Smith? I was about to break. I was about to dip. I was about to go to church, right? And my little girl looked at me like she was my wife, boy. She scowled at me like, "You better not leave." I'm like, "Huh?" I ain't gonna lie, I kind of punked out a little bit when she did that. She looked at me like, "You better not leave." I said, "What?" She said, "Don't you leave me here and don't leave him." I said, "Well, I told him I was leaving." She said, "He'll say it's okay, but he really means otherwise." It's see, because those babies have that boldness, right? I don't know how many children. If you only got one, you might not experience it, right? But if you got 2, 3, because the first one, like I said, it's on the job training. You get it wrong a lot of times. Middle child, it's kind of coasting. The things you got wrong, you kind of correct. And sometimes by that third or fourth child, you kind of tired anyways. You don't even feel like fighting anyway. So when they challenge you or you try, and I couldn't say a word because she was right. She wasn't wrong. She wasn't wrong. She wasn't disrespectful. But it put me in a state of retrospect, and it made me think about some decisions I might have made over the last 26 years that I thought was the right decision, that I thought it was the noble decision. I thought I was supposed to be here. I thought I was supposed to say that. And sometimes I did those things at the sacrifice and at the detriment of a relationship with them. It was so many times I could remember them being on the road while I'm at work. And I'm supposed to be, and I talk about that in the book. If you all haven't gotten, I might give it, depending on who's the most engaging tonight, I might give another copy. I owe Conjura Hilliard a copy. She won a copy on last week. But it put me in retrospect. It made me wonder, were there times that I should have showed up, but I didn't because I thought I was doing something that was noble. And when I didn't show up, how did it make my children feel? And I'm not the only one, because all of us, if we be honest, if you would really do honest assessments, right? If you really look at the man or the woman in the mirror, I got you, Charlotte. If you really look at the man or the woman, you do an honest assessment, because all of us, I know some of y'all don't think your stuff don't stink, or we're on our way to heaven and we're enjoying the trip. We're so perfect and we don't make mistakes. But I'm gonna be the first one to stand up and say, yeah, I made some mistakes along the way, but to see the fruit of my labor yesterday, to see how this year he's the strides he's made since college. He's gotten a master's degree. He's doing real estate now. He's doing well at real estate. He and his fiance are doing well. They purchased their first house already. They're on their way, and I can look at them and say, I did that. I can say I did that. But you know what? I did it in spite of me. And it wasn't just me. Don't get me wrong. We participated in that, but it wasn't just me. And sometimes some things can function even when it looks like there's dysfunction, right? Because, those weren't always happy years. We didn't always have the most. Sometimes we didn't have, and sometimes we struggled, and sometimes we lost, and sometimes we missed it, and sometimes we dropped the ball, right? But yet and still, in the midst of dysfunction, we still found function, because, like I said, he's done that. My middle child, she's already gone on and graduated from University of Georgia and is doing an internship. My baby, she's working and leading cheerleading, all these things, right? And they did those things in spite of, right? Because it wasn't just because I was so great and so grand, because sometimes I missed it. And my daughter challenging me yesterday, and not challenging me in a negative way, because I 100% feel what she did, and I respect what she did, and I love her for what she did. But she said, you better not leave. He won't tell you, but I'm going to tell you. If you leave, he's going to feel some type of way. Don't leave. Because children talk, and they have feelings. And we have created a culture as we, because the last few weeks, you all have heard me talk about attachment styles. And we talk about how we relate in our adult life based on how our caregivers dealt with us as children, how those that were supposed to be our village, how, did they give us a nurturing environment, or did they give us a confusing environment where they drink, where they're drunks, or where they're abusive, did they contribute to ACEs, all these different things. We try to factor those things because those are the things, those are the cultivation, that's the cultivation. That's the soil, if you will, that the seed that we have become has grown in because of the environment. We're all products of our environment. Any way we look at it, we're the product. We are products of what we have been exposed to and what we have embraced. That's just like the old saying, if you lay down with dogs, what ends up happening? You end up getting up with fleas, right? That's how that usually works out. If you lay down with dogs, you usually get, so if you get into a certain environment, right? And you're always around that type of environment, if you have to be protective of yourself because you're worried about somebody coming in the room and slipping under the covers with you, right? Because they did it last night, or they did it last year when you came to visit for the summer, and that was supposed to be a safe environment, or when somebody, 1 minute they're showing you love and they're talking about how much they love you and they're telling you how beautiful you are and that you're their child and they're supposed to be protecting you. But the next moment you talk to them and then they cussing you out and calling you everything but a child of God. That creates a disorganized environment because a person doesn't know what's going to happen. And when they don't know what's going to happen, what it does is it puts them on the defensive. It puts them in a state whereas they have to be careful or be in a state where they're distrusting, if you will. So when we start talking about all of these ACEs, if you want to know what ACEs, Charlotte, those are adverse childhood experiences. Adverse childhood experiences. Because that's what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about growing up in a world and you're feeling misunderstood, right? Last week, we had the privilege of having Lalita May on the show. And I had asked a simple question prior to asking what, if I don't read your comments, y'all talk to each other. Don't talk to me because I'll try to read them, but I want to keep flowing with what I'm doing. So I prefer you all talk to each other because I get distracted sometimes when I have to read the comments and teach what I'm trying to teach at the same time. So please don't think that I'm shirking your responsibility. Somebody might want to take over one day and read these comments for me, but I can't do it. All right. So, like I said, but please comment, please talk to each other, please share your testimonies because that's what I want to see. So here it is. Growing up in a world where you're feeling misunderstood. Young lady last week, she came on and she talked about her childhood trauma. And this was the post that she made last week. Hold on. Let me find it. I'm right near it. I was just on it, but I hit the wrong button. Okay. Here it is. There it is. All right. Miss May. She said last week, her childhood trauma was ADHD. As a girl back then, ADHD was a white boy condition, and the crippling anxiety and depression that came with it, I was hyperlexic, meaning I was reading fluently at 2 years old before I even understood what the words meant. I was teaching my classmates to read by 1st grade. By 5th grade, I was reading on a 10th grade level. Thing is, I would make bad grades throughout school because I would miss homework assignments. Though I would ace the test, most of my whoopings came from those issues. But how do you explain to a teacher or a parent that your brain is fighting you? There was no explanation that would be taken as an excuse. So that was shocking for me. It was eye-opening for me. It was because I could relate to her on so many levels. And then but I started to get text messages and I started to get emails and I started to get phone calls, inboxes about people who had gone through the same thing. I can remember in the 5th grade that they put us in a 6th grade classroom because we were farther along advanced than the other 5th graders in our school. So I was in the same 6th grade classroom for 2 years. 5th grade, same 6th grade. Didn't flunk 6th grade, no. In fact, I was the youngest in my class. But I had a unique ability to be able to understand and figure out things. I could read, I could study. I mean, I could cram, didn't flunk tests. You know, even in college, I would write 10-page papers on the last day. I would sit down and try to write those papers. I would try to do the research up front. I would sit down and try to do the rewrite and, you know, do the rough draft. I've never done a rough draft and a rewrite. Never done that. I know that's how they teach you to do it, but I never did. But then it came to a certain point where I maxed out and I didn't know how to study. And when I didn't know how to study, that trauma came back because of what I was missing growing up, because I could relate to her on so many levels. I'll get into that as we get on a little bit later. But so many can relate to that. So many things, because what we consider ACEs, what we consider adverse child experiences like mental abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, you know, having a parent that's an alcoholic, all these different factors are contribute to what we call adverse childhood experiences, and they pour into that child, right? And they help produce who that child becomes. I can remember, and like I said a minute ago, if you all missed it, parenting is on the job training. You know, we model our parenting style a lot of times off of what our parents did to us or what our parents didn't do to us. I mean, some things we didn't like they did. Like, for instance, my mom might have made us eat all of our food. Well, hell, I didn't like onions in my eggs. So I would sit there and hate eating out. So I didn't make my children eat all their food. I made sure they got enough, you know. So the things that you didn't like, you might have changed, or the things that you liked, you might have kept, you know, because you created your own modeling style, your own parenting style, your own model of a parenting style as you went forth, right? And so you tried your best to create this environment for your children. I can remember, for instance, like I said, and this is not to slight my parents because they did the best they could, and I think I turned out okay. But I can remember, for instance, if I made a bad grade, Charlotte, if I made a bad grade, Lisa, my mom at that time would make me go stay in my room for 9 weeks until the grade came up. For 9 weeks, I would have to stay in the room and honestly, you know, when I look at that in reverse, man, that was solitary confinement. You can't tell me that's a good place to put a child to leave them alone with their thoughts for 9 weeks. You know, I talked to my therapist about it. And we talk about it, and that, you know, and some of the things I'm going to share with you all, because I'm transparent. You know, I'll share my business. I just need to learn. I'm not going to share other people's business. And we talk about, you know, that room, you know, and how, you know, few times I had to be punished or banished to that room for those 9 weeks. And it wasn't like I was making F's. You know, I didn't make F's. I made a C or something or along those lines. But I would have to go in that room for 9 weeks, be left alone with my thoughts. And my therapist said that in so many ways, I'm still in that room. Or sometimes in so many instances, it's not that I'm in the room. Sometimes I retreat to the room because I made it a haven, or I made it a safe place, or I made it watch this, I made it a place to go even when I punish myself. I need y'all to talk back to me tonight. I made it a place to go even when mama or parents wasn't punishing me. I made it a place to go where I would punish myself when I felt like I wasn't measuring up, when I felt like I wasn't doing what I was supposed to, when I felt like I missed the mark, when I felt like I fell short. Sometimes it wasn't that my parent had to put me in punishment or on punishment. I would punish myself. And the room, I discovered over the years, has become much more than a physical room. But in contrast, the room has become a metaphor. In fact, when I went through what I went through, and I had to write a whole book about it, my bedroom actually became my couch. And that's why I wrote a whole book on it called Stuck on the Couch. Yeah, because you always look for a safe place. You know, what's his name? Pigpen on Charlie Brown had his blanket. You know, it just that was his safe place. You know what I'm saying? If you got a love language and you got somebody you can trust, and your love language is touch, as long as they're just right beside you, you can put you know, in arm's reach. You know, you can touch them. You know, your Wonder Twins activate. You know, because whatever it is, you know, you're looking for that safe place, right? And for me, for a season, it was the couch. And here it is, because Viola, growing up in a world where you felt misunderstood, right? Because like I told you, we were only 6 or 7 in the 6th grade classroom, right? I always had a unique ability to understand. I can remember having spiritual conversations with my uncle vividly at 3 and 4 and 5 years old. I was baptized at the age of 5. I had a unique ability to understand. And so when those instances come, how as an environment or how as a village do we cultivate the ground to make the child, make the atmosphere more conducive so that we can get the most out of the child? Because truth be told, some of us aren't equipped to raise exceptional children. I'm be honest, just be honest. I ain't gonna lie, I wish I had been in a better position financially to really help my son in his baseball career, because there were some things that he just needed, you know, that I couldn't do, or I wasn't able to do, you know, because of just how you know, just wasn't able to do, unfortunately, at that and during that time. And you know, things have changed, thank God, since then. He got what he needed, thank God. That's why I said even through dysfunction, we could find function. So many of us have, and y'all can be honest, y'all, if you can believe me if you want to, so many of have had such a steady diet. So many of us have had such a steady diet of dysfunction that dysfunction has become our norm. And so functional don't even look right because we've gotten so comfortable in dysfunction. Does that make sense? That's why when help shows up, you're not ready to take help, because help, sometimes we're too busy trying to tell help how to be help. And how do you tell help how to be help when you're the one who needs the help? Sometimes it's better when you're on the outside, when somebody's on the outside looking in. I often use the analogy of how so many times in my life that I missed it, right? Because I just didn't take the time to look at the man in the mirror. I didn't take the time. You know, I thought I had it down. I knew my natural wave pattern. I could brush my hair across here, right? I could brush my teeth while I'm getting my shirt off the hanger. You know, I can wash my face while I'm, you know, right before I tie my tie. You know, although I knew those things, so a mirror wasn't very necessary to. Well, I didn't think it was. So when people told me what they saw, sometimes I didn't see it. And I don't know if it was because I had insulated myself over the years. I don't know if because of not feeling like I fit in, I had to create this alter ego or insulate or whatever. Because I ain't gonna lie, I use this analogy all the time, Stacey, Viola. I use this analogy. I say that my stress after my divorce and all that, you know, when I was getting myself together, I tell people my stress level went down the more my middle finger went up. Because there was just a part of me, I had to harden myself. I had to become, I had to insulate myself so that I could become strong again, right? See, the cocoon, it covers the external because it's trying to protect something that's on the inside. And sometimes we'll harden our shell, even inadvertently, because we're trying to protect something, whether it be an ego, oh God, whether it be our feelings, whether we're trying to keep from being offended, all those types of things, right? Especially when you feel like you have been misunderstood. And so I wanted to talk tonight for a few minutes. I promise you I ain't gonna hold you all alone tonight. But I wanted to talk to you about in the Bible. If you look at this story in the Bible, 1 Samuel chapter 1, you're introduced to the story of Samuel, right? And Samuel had two parents. Elkanah was his daddy, and Hannah was his mama. Now, Elkanah in this culture could have more than one wife. He had two. He had Hannah and he had Peninnah. But those that know the story know what Hannah was barren. That meant that Hannah was unable to produce children. And that was the glory of a woman. Every woman wanted to be able to produce a child for her husband, and not only a child, but she wanted to be able to produce a male child because she wanted to be able to carry his bloodline, right? She wanted that bloodline to keep on going, because if it was no male child, then the seed would stop. Now I could put a hermeneutic right there, because y'all know y'all doing test tube babies, and now y'all doing relationships that don't even make babies. Okay, but anyway, so she wanted to be able to produce or keep his bloodline going, but she was barren. She could not produce. And can you imagine what that must have done to her, especially since we're talking about mental health now? Can you imagine how that made her feel? That had to make her feel inadequate. That had to make her feel like she was unworthy, or that she was worthless, because she was unable to produce children. And what made it worse is that her adversary, the other woman in the house, his other wife, right? She would make fun of her, talking about how her womb was barren and that she was unable to bear children. But one day she was in the temple and she was praying, and she was praying. And the Bible says she was praying and she was crying, and she was praying and she was crying. And as she cried, her lips would move and it looked like she was speaking, but she wasn't saying anything, right? So verse 14 of chapter 1, Eli said unto her, he said, "How long, woman, are you going to be drunk? Put away your wine." And Hannah said, "No, I ain't drunk. I'm a woman of a sorrowful spirit. I've drunk no wine nor strong drink, but have poured my soul before the Lord." Now, notice what she said. She said she poured her soul before the Lord. She didn't pour it before Eli. She didn't pour it before her husband. She didn't pour it before Penina. She didn't pour it before me. She didn't pour it on. She didn't put it on Facebook. She didn't put it on Instagram. She didn't put it on TikTok. She went before the Lord. Too many times in life, I think we take our problems to the wrong people. We take our problems to people that can't change them. We take the problems to people who won't do anything but pervert whatever it is that we gave them. That's why it said, "Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pains we bear," all because we won't carry everything to him, but we try to carry them to other folks. So Hannah said she poured her soul out before the Lord, and then she said, "Count not thine handmaid for a daughter of Belial, for out of the abundance of my complaint and grief have I spoken hitherto." Here she was depressed. Here she was dealing with anxiety. But even in the midst of that, she was cognizant enough to go to the right person with the right message, because she went to the Lord and she went to him with prayer. And I like how Eli handled it, because Eli's like a lot of us. Because how many people, Lori, how many people, Viola, how many people, Lisa, have you misdiagnosed? Because see, what we fail to realize oftentimes is that death and life are in the power of the tongue. And we don't realize that we could, just like we speak life into someone, by the same token, we can speak death. Now, he saw her lips moving, saw her crying, but no words were coming out, and he automatically assumed the worst. Why she got to be drunk? Because when you see somebody on the street, why they got to be crazy? And if they are crazy, what drove them crazy? Where did the psychotic break? Where did the psychotic break? Because you and I are this close to a mental breakdown. Let the wrong information find you out. Bernadette talked a couple of weeks ago about a man that was in the military in her neighborhood that had found his wife cheating. And now he's walking down the street talking to himself. He's lost his mind. All of us are just a little information away from a psychotic break. And then somebody will be diagnosing your situation, right? And so here Eli is a priest. Somebody's supposed to be connected to God. And the first thing he assumes when he sees this woman is that she must be drunk. You got to be careful diagnosing conditions that you're not equipped to diagnose. Man, I'm gonna try to tell you, folk, Viola, I promise you, folk will lie on you, will speak all manner of evil against you falsely and all that kind of stuff. I preached a sermon one time and I called it When My Anointing Attracts Attacks. Because there are times that your anointing just a mess around and will attract attack. You didn't do anything you just existed, you know. And why, if we're going to exist, why not exist cordially, right? I mean, because existence does not deserve the name of life. It's happiness that deserves the name of life, right? And all I want to do is I want to be I just want to be happy, right? I just want to live cordially. I don't want to fight. I don't want to get along with me. I don't want to argue with anybody. I want to be like Rodney King. Can we all get along? But in this society, many times we assume the worst before we assume the best. So how many children with that negative tongue of yours, with that negative perception, that tongue that is speaking death, how many children's lives or how many individuals' lives that you've spoken into their lives, and you could have spoken life that's one thing I did speaking to my children. I did speak life. Every semester I told them, I said, listen, now you're going to start this semester off. In every class, you got 100. So right now you have all A's. So any points you give back, that's on you. Now you can give up to 10 or 9, whatever it was, and you still got A's. But why would you do that? So, and I told them no more than 2 B's in my house. And those were the rules. And I spoke those rules, and they never shirked. They never missed that. Oh, let me, somebody might want to call. Let me put up the phone. I forgot to put the phone up. But, let me turn the phone on. But yeah, so if you can create an environment for people to win when they're in your presence. I don't want people around me that's not winning. I go through seasons of my life where I choose not to answer the phone. Especially, y'all ever had somebody every time they call you, it's bad news? Yeah, you have to. I spoke and still speak life. Absolutely. Jennifer, y'all have anybody that whenever they call you, it's always, I got one homeboy. Every time he calls me, it's bad news. And then he wonder why I got attitude, why you call. I said, listen, bro, let me tell you what it's like, what you're doing. It's like you're taking a pile of manure, a whole truckload of manure, and you're backing up to my freshly manicured lawn, and you're dumping it all on me, and you don't even spread it. You don't do, and that you can't do me like that. And so what I'll do is I'll change your name in my phone to DNA, and that means do not, I won't do it because I can't let you bring that into my spirit. Jennifer, I watch how you support your son when he sings and does all those things. We got to speak life into our children. And here Samuel was now. She prayed. She said, Lord, because she made a vow. She said, verse number 11, she vowed a vow, said, Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on my affliction, the affliction of thine handmaid, remember me, not forget thine handmaid, but will give me a man child. That's a reproducing, not just, I want one that, because only men could serve in the temple. Don't call them chauvinistic. That was just the day. Okay? Shit, that was just the day. That was the culture. Men were the priests during that time. She wanted a male child. Somebody wanted to call and I missed the phone call. Call right back. You call right back. A male child. She wanted a male child. Call right back. I missed it. So that's what she wanted. If I see the call, I'll answer it. And so she prayed that prayer. I don't know if I don't have, I think I got the phone ready. She prayed that prayer because she wanted a male child. And she said, Lord, if you give him to me, I'll give him back to you. Right. So interestingly enough, during this time, Eli was an old man. Now, with him being so old, he had 2 sons, but his sons were a mess. Phinehas and Hophni were a mess. They were a stone cold mess. They would cheat people with the sacrifices. They would keep the good ones for themselves and not give those to God. I mean, a whole bunch of different things. I mean, they were horrible. They were taking the women and having sex in the temples. They were doing some stuff back then, right? Whoever was trying to call, let me know who it was, and I promise I'll try to answer in a minute. They were doing some stuff, right? I mean, they were just negative all over the place. So ironically, God always puts a ram in the bush. He always has something set up in case we mess up, right? So he decided to bless Hannah with her desire. So don't tell me that God is still not in the blessing business, because he will, and he'll even reverse conditions that were supposed to be non-productive. He'll turn around and make those same things productive. Areas in your life where you were once non-productive, God will reverse it and make you productive. Ask Elijah as he sat beside the brook of Kerith every day, because the Bible talks about how a ravenous bird by a raven showed up every day with meat in its beak, meat that it could have eaten, but it met Elijah and served him. God will reverse conditions so that you can succeed in areas where you were once non-successful. Not because she ended up having a child, and when she had a child, after she had weaned him, after he had gotten old enough, she took him to the temple. And you got to understand that he's a special child. He's not just a normal child, because his name is Samuel. What Samuel meant is asked of God. The reason she named him what she named him is because of the conditions under which he was conceived. She asked God, could she have a male child? And God gave her a male child. Isn't that just like a God? He gave her a male child, and she decided to do what she said she was going to do. She took him back to the temple and she gave him to Eli. Now understand, Eli is the priest at the temple, but Eli is up in age now. His eyes have waxed old. God has gotten a little tired of him now, because he's seen how Eli failed. I preached a sermon one time called Eli's Epidemic, because Eli failed to deal with his sons, right? Because his sons were defaming the temple, and he didn't do anything about it. But thank God that God raised up a Samuel. And this Samuel is raised in this toxic environment, because I can only imagine that when Phinehas and Hophni saw this little boy come in, and now this little boy is serving their father, he's doing what they should have been doing, that they started to make things a little rough. But that did not bother bother Samuel, because Samuel chapter 2 verse 26 says, and the child Samuel grew on and was in favor both with the Lord and also with men. In other words, when you do what you're supposed to do, God will allow you to find favor with him first. And when you find favor with him, he'll turn around and allow you to find favor with men as well. So he grows up in this toxic environment, right? And we're talking about mental health. We're talking about growing up in a world where you're feeling misunderstood. Now, understand Samuel as he grows up in this house. He's barely 10, 11, 12 years old. He's a young boy. During his time, he's serving his master. He's even his sleeping chambers are even within earshot of his master, because if his master needed a cold drink of water in the middle of the night, he wanted to be able to tend to his master. If his master had trouble breathing or needed some type of medication or whatever, he wanted to be in earshot, right? So that he would be able to tend to the needs of his master. Because you got to understand, before anyone will serve you, you have to be willing to serve somebody else. All right, I'm gonna leave that one alone. So anyway, here's the situation. Growing up in a world feeling misunderstood. 1 Samuel chapter 3, verse number 1 says, it said, and the child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli, and the word of the Lord was precious in those days, because there was no open vision. In other words, the word in that era, Viola, no prophet was speaking. No judge was speaking, because at this time, verse number 1 said that there was no open vision, and the word of the Lord was precious. So they were waiting on God to raise up someone that would give them a word. They wanted a word, right? And so here this man is that was asked, this young boy is, who was asked of God, who came out of what was supposed to be a barren situation, who was a miracle child that God is raising up, that he sent to the temple. I want y'all to see the pressure that's put on this child, right? Because we talk about how autistic children, they want to medicate autistic children. They try to understand autistic children. But from my understanding, autistic children think faster than the average person. Well, who's obscure? who's off? Who's wrong, right? Because if this is the one who's exceptional, if this is the one who thinks on a higher order, then I need to get like you instead of me bringing you back down to here. So here this child is that was raised in Eli's house, barely 12 years old, has this magnanimous responsibility placed upon him to tend to the priest of that day. And all of a sudden, because they need a word, right? Because there's no open vision, there's no prophet, there's no one to give a word to the children of Israel. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, verse number 2, it says, and it came to pass at that time when Eli had laid down in his place and his eyes began to wax dim, that he could not see, and ere the lamp of God, verse number 3, ere the lamp of God went out in the temple of the Lord where the ark of God was, and Samuel, here it is, was laid down to sleep. Verse 4, that the Lord called Samuel, and he answered and said, here am I. See the picture? He's asleep. The lamp is down. They don't have, I watch Perry Mason at 11 o'clock. They can't watch Perry Mason. No, they don't have TV shows. There's no internet. They can't scroll TikTok, So when the light goes out, everybody goes to bed. Everybody goes to sleep, right? So they're supposed to be asleep. All of a sudden, Samuel, he's supposed to be asleep. His eyes are asleep. Then all of a sudden the Lord calls him and says, Samuel. He hears a voice through the darkness. And what does he do? Because he's in earshot of his master. He's worried now. Is something wrong? He runs into his master and said, Lord, here he says to his master, here am I, for thou callest me. In other words, the only voice I've been responding to is your voice. That's Eli's voice, right? Because that's the normal voice. In the text, I don't know who you are. You might have been an Eli and you heard a voice, or you might have been an Eli where you ministered unto a Samuel, or you were a motivator or a mentor to a Samuel, or maybe you were a Samuel that heard a voice and you went and you tried to get, because the voice you're used to hearing, that's the voice that you respond to, right? Children heard our voices all their lives, and that's the voice they respond to, whether it be a positive response or whether it be a negative response. That's the voice that they respond to, right? When you're not around, they still respond to your voice. Let me leave that alone. Okay, so Samuel says, I promise, I still hear my mama's voice. I mean, to this day, there's certain voices, that's in you, and I'm not talking about the mental psychosis, the types of voices that where you're hearing voices that have to be controlled by medication, because sometimes you do hear certain voices, but as you get older, you start to recognize me. You start not recognizing me. I'm talking about me. When you start recognizing the voice of God, Scripture says that the sheep know the shepherd's voice, and a stranger he will not answer. So you'll get to a certain point in life where you start recognizing certain voices and you'll respond to certain voices, and then you'll know not to respond to certain voices as well. So he goes in the room. He says, Master, did you call me? Look what Eli responds and says, I called not. Lie down again. How many times have people come to you after waking up with a vision, told you that they felt like they had been called, but you told them to go back to sleep? I'm gonna shut down. I'm gonna shut up and let you think about that one for a minute. How many visions have we killed because somebody came to you and shared their vision with you? Or here it is. How many times, oh God, how many times did someone kill your vision? You knew you heard a voice. You knew you felt something that was inspiring you. You knew you felt something on the altar of your heart that was giving you motivation to drive on, or you felt like you had a deeper purpose in life. But when you went and told the wrong person, and that wrong person told you to go back to sleep. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and so many children could have lived. But you know why a lot of times you kill the vision? because you're afraid you can't control the outcome. Oh my God. I'm going to let that marinate for just a moment. Let me let that marinate. Let me let it marinate. Let me let it marinate. So many times you kill the vision because you are afraid you can't control the outcome. My children chose and I cultivated. Y'all need to tweet that. Y'all need to put that on Facebook, Instagram, somewhere. Let your children choose. You just cultivate. If you're creative enough. I'm a preacher. I'm going to put all C's on it. Yeah, let them choose. You cultivate and be creative in your cultivation and watch how they come forth. And they'll come forth with passion. I'll say it one more time. Let them choose. You cultivate. Do it with creativity and watch them come forth. And they'll come forth every time. And when they come forth, they'll come forth with a smile on their face. They'll come forth with passion. They'll come forth with purpose. But so many times our children are so depressed because we want to control the outcome. Let them babies be. He went in the room, said, Master, did you call me? No, I didn't call you. Go back to sleep. Why didn't you say, why didn't you do an inquiry? Why didn't you say, well, how did the voice sound? Did they speak English or did they speak Spanish? I mean, what did they say? I mean, why didn't you do more investigation? But instead, all he said was what? Go back to sleep. How does that work? I think sometimes many of us, Jennifer Coleman, lawyer, I think sometimes we need to really revoke our parenting cards because we sucked as parents. Like I said, I might have got it wrong on the first one, but I promise you, I started trying to fix that thing as it got older. And me and my son and I had a conversation today. He called me and he said, Daddy, thanks for coming through yesterday, man. Don't you throw your phone. Phones are expensive. He said, thanks for coming through. I said, boy, I had to come through. What you mean? He said, man, I know we don't talk every day. I said, dude, we don't have to talk every day. I said, I did my job. I didn't raise robots. I raised you to make a good decision. And the more you don't call me, that's the fruit of my labor. When I see you making moves and you just closed another house and you're dropping these videos, man, that's the fruit of my labor. I'm good. I can sit back and say, look what we did, because I don't need to hear from you every day. I'm good. The one I need to hear from is in the house with me, and I'm cultivating that every day because if they choose, if I'm creative enough, I can cultivate and I can watch them come forth. But he told them, go back to sleep. He told Samuel, lay back down. Go back to sleep. Verse number 5. And he ran into verse number 6. And the Lord called yet again Samuel. Aren't you glad that when God calls once that he doesn't stop calling? I would shout. I shout right there. Aren't you? I feel like preaching a little bit. Hold on. I need to get me one right there. Aren't you glad that when God calls one time, he doesn't stop calling? Because sometimes he might, he's on the main line and we can call him up and tell him when we want because his line is never busy. But sometimes we miss it. Sometimes we didn't hear the call. Sometimes we were distracted. But it did wonderful that if he calls, he'll call again.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord.
Because the Bible says he called yet. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. He called yet again. Samuel repeats the process. Samuel arose and went to Eli and said, here am I, for thou didst call me. And this time, Samuel, now he's saying, listen, the only voice I've heard in this house is your voice. And I just laid down and I heard a voice because the Bible said the Lord called yet again. Verse 6, Samuel arose. Here I am, for thou didst call me. And he says, son, I didn't call you. Lie down. At this point, Stacy, I need to do some investigations because I'm wondering why this little boy keeps coming to me because I know him. I use this analogy. When Trey was in the fifth grade, Trey was in the fifth grade. He was going to school, Flat Shoals Elementary. And I went out to, and his mother used to go to all of his parent teacher conferences. But this particular time, Jennifer, she would come home and, she would say, hey, the teacher said Trey is talking so much in class and Trey is disruptive and Trey is doing this and all this. And Jennifer, Trey don't talk at home. So if he don't talk at home, why would he go to school and talk? So I said, you know what, let me go talk to her next time. So, you know, I if something don't make sense to me, I got to question. If this boy keeps coming to me saying somebody's calling him, I got to figure out what's going on. So anyway, I go talk to the teacher. We're having this conversation. And she's telling me, you know, well, Trey does this and he's in class and he's talking and, you know, he does his homework and he does this and he makes good grades, but he's talking. I said, well, first of all, let me say this. I said, because everything you've told me sounds like qualities that will make him successful in the future. She said, no, hold on. I said, don't do it yet. I said, but not only do they sound like qualities, because you got to advocate for your children, especially when you know your children, right? You know them better than they know them. But I said, they sound like qualities that make him successful. I said, but the second thing is he finishing his work too fast? Are you not giving him enough homework or something? And she said, well, he does finish his work fast. I said, tell you what, give him a little more work. But if he messes up again, here's my phone number. And let him know you're going to call me. They never had another problem. In fact, she recommended him to be a part of some gifted group. She wanted him to go to Japan with a group. He was playing baseball all summer, so he couldn't go. But I advocated for my child. They said I couldn't let the label be on him that he was talkative and he was disruptive, especially when I knew he was disciplined. I knew he knew the consequences of acting up. That didn't make sense to me. So when this boy comes to Eli for the second time and he says, no, you did call me because I heard a voice. At that point, it's time to do an investigation. When you notice strange things, and strange don't always have to be a bad thing. Because see, what you call strange, what you call strange might be gifted to somebody else, but you don't know how to cultivate the gift. Huh? What you call strange might be exceptional to somebody else. Because see, some strange stands out. Yeah. Strange looks different. How you doing, Janelle? Tell the Deacon Farley I say hello. Strange doesn't look like everybody else. And I'm gonna be honest, I have never looked like everybody else. I've never fit in with everybody else. I've always been different. Right? So when he comes in, he says, thou didst call me. But look what Eli says. Lay down again. Go back to bed. How many children were crying out, telling you that I'm exceptional, telling you that there's something different about me? Watch this. Telling you that I'm bored. But you sent them to the room. You told them to go to bed. And guess what they did, Lori? They went because they're gonna listen. They're your children. They love you. They think you know what's best for them. They trust your direction. So when you tell them to lay back down, guess what they're gonna do? Go lay back down. But thank God that we serve a persistent God. Because verse number 7 says, now Samuel did not yet know the Lord because he was young. Neither was the word of the Lord yet revealed unto him. But despite the fact that Samuel didn't know the Lord, despite the fact that the word of the Lord had not yet been revealed unto him, the Bible says in verse number 8, and I'm about to shout right now, it says, and the Lord called Samuel again the third time. Oh, Lord, I felt that. She said, it says, despite the fact that Samuel's working, but didn't know the Lord. Sometimes you just got to be in the right place and with the right purpose, with the right people, and watch God work it out. Because despite the fact that Samuel didn't know him, God kept calling. And when he called him again the third time, the Bible says he went in unto thee and he said, there, verse number 3 says, and he arose and went into Eli, said, here I am, for thou didst call me. At this point, Eli perceived that the Lord had called the child. This is the thing, though. This is the thing. How many times do our children stop talking to us because we shut them down when they came with vision? I felt that in my shana now. Because, and like I told you earlier, because you're either Eli in the text or you're Samuel in the text. Either you were Samuel telling somebody your dream, or telling somebody your vision, or telling you that God was calling you, telling somebody that God was calling you, or you were Eli telling somebody to go back to sleep. And if you tell them to go back to sleep long enough, that lets them know that you're not interested in what they have to say or what's going on, or the evolution that's taking place in their lives. Because sometimes your children, sometimes people in your life, they will evolve you. And watch this, evolve. I say evolve you, that doesn't make sense. They'll evolve past you. They'll outgrow you. They'll grow onto a new level. And when that happens, what do? You be the rock. Do you know that when a seed is planted, especially a tree, when the seed is planted, before it grows up, first of all, it grows down? Does that make sense? So many trees that you see that are several feet above ground, they're not only several feet above ground, but they're all several feet beneath the dirt as well. Because before the seed can grow up, they grow down. And when they grow down, the roots, they try to grab hold to something that they can anchor themselves to, because if they can anchor to the right thing, it makes the tree stronger, right? So what the roots do is the roots reach and grab rocks, Elder Lisa Smith, beneath the surface. And when they grab the rock, they wrap the roots around the rock. And the rock ends up becoming the anchor for the tree. Here it is. And oh God, this is fresh. When your children start to grow, when you see they have exceptional gifts, when you see them going into new direction, instead of being a crab in the barrel and pulling them down, be a rock so that their root can grab a hold of you and grow to the area that they need to grow to. We got to create an atmosphere for these children to win, man. We have to create an atmosphere for our children to win. But many times, because we feel like we're not equipped, because here it is once again, because we're not creative enough, we can't cultivate. Elder Lisa Smith, congratulations, you got a brand new grandbaby now. And right now you're creating. That's why the African proverb said, talking about it takes a village to raise a child. But what if the village is messed up? Because there's some perverts in the village, there's some pedophiles. And if you know that person is that person, why you still let people go around that person? Huh? We never let our daughters spend the night with anybody. Ever, because one touch can change the trajectory of their life. You got to protect your children. You got to protect your children. You can ask my daughters, we never, ever, ever, ever let them spend the night with anybody, because I didn't know who was over there. And I can't get no charge, because if my child come home acting funny, I'm going to assume the worst. So I got to protect them at all. So we didn't let them go over people's houses and spend the night. Y'all already know, because some of y'all went over some people's houses. You know, nasty ass cousins did some stuff. I'm sorry, Lord, forgive me. Nasty cousin did some stuff they wasn't supposed to. Oh, no, Stacy, no doubt. I started this whole conversation off with about forgiving, because and go back and watch the beginning. I talked about, Alicia, I'm sure all of us can relate to this, especially those of us that have more than one child. We get it wrong on that first child. I don't care what you say, because our parenting styles is a microcosm and a model of how our parents and how our children and how they raised us. Whether we liked it, if we liked it, we implemented it. If we didn't like it, we got rid of it. We tried to do everything the exact opposite. But as we got older, our children kind of taught us how to parent them, right? And then as we learn those things, we can go back and look at our parents and see some mistakes they made growing up, right? And you forgive them, because I know some stuff. I talked earlier about how one of my punishments used to be that if I made a bad grade, I had to stay in the room for 9 weeks, no TV. No radio, all I could do was study and be alone with my thoughts. That was psychological warfare to me. And the sad part about it, Stacey, is that as a 52-year-old man, there are times that where I punish myself and I sentence myself to the same room that I have been delivered from because I'm grown. I don't have to go back in that room anymore. But sometimes as a man, I retreat to that child that's inside of me, and I still punish myself and send myself to the room. That's the childhood trauma that many of us face and have yet to deal with. And then we bring all that stuff into relationships and think that we have it all together. We have to grow together. And sometimes growing together means groaning together. I'm preaching better than y'all letting on tonight. I promise I am. So he goes back in the room to Eli and says, Eli, you did call me. I heard a voice. I don't know whose voice it was. If it wasn't you, who was it? And I can relate to Eli because at 12 years old, I was in my parents' house at 6612 Allwood Drive. And I heard a voice call me. It said, James. I woke up and it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, Daddy, did you call me? I woke my parents out of their sleep. Mama, did you call me? Felice, nobody called. 9 years later, I heard that same voice again. So he does speak. He might not have spoke to you, but he does speak. And he spoke to Samuel in that moment. And when he speaks, when you recognize that it's the shepherd that's speaking, because we are the sheep and the sheep do recognize the shepherd's voice. Once you recognize his voice, at that point, we have a responsibility. And here, because Eli perceived that the Lord had called the Lord, Eli said, Samuel, this time go lay down. And it shall be if he calls again. If he calls again, I got a little more faith than if he calls again, because if he called once, I think he's gonna call again. So it's not if he calls again, but when he calls again. So I don't know if he spoke. I just felt in my spirit, whoever's listening to me right now, if he's ever spoken in your life and it feels like he's not speaking now, trust me, it's not if he speaks again, it's when he speaks again. Because he is going to speak again. Understand, the gifts and calling of God are without repentance. If he spoke, if he called you, it's not if he speaks again, it's when he speaks again. So I have to correct you, Eli. Eli said, if he speaks, no, it's when he speaks. But this is what you're going to say. Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. See, Alicia, I applaud you, because I've watched Alicia try to put her children in the best possible position, whether it was Arkansas or Georgia or wherever, because she wanted to try to give her children. She takes them on vacation. She wants to put them in the best possible positions, right? And that's what we should do, right? Even if we're not equipped with what's necessary. You might not have money to get your child in college, but you can help them fill out a college application. You can fill out a FAFSA. You could check those progress reports from the 9th through the 12th grade, and when they get off a little bit, you can make sure you get those grades up, or you can talk to the teacher and tell them how to get. I used to tell my children when they came in with an 89, I'm like, listen, you need to go holler at your teacher and ask them, is there anything you can do to get some extra points so you can get that A? You know, because even if you don't have the wherewithal or the resources in that moment, you can get them in the position to get the proper resources, right? So Eli didn't know what the Lord was going to say, but he told Samuel what he should do. He said, go and lay down. And when he speaks, not if he speaks, but when he speaks this time, here am I. Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. At that point, now, Stacey just said it right. Now you're in a position to hear. You have to get your children in a position. I know some great mothers, mothers of autistic children, and they've done the research on how to get their children the right resources, whether it's monetary resources or whether it's educational resources or whether it's medication or whatever is necessary to give their child an easier life. All of us should want our children to do better than we did. That's the fruit of your labor. That's the real glory of the situation, right? You know, to respect your children, give your children choices that you didn't have, right? If you smoke weed, that's your thing, man, you know, but close the door. You know, you don't expose them to stuff. You know, are you bringing different men in and out the house all the time, or different women in and out the house all the time? Because they're sponges. And the things that they pick up, those are learned behaviors that they're picking up from you. And sometimes, rather than, there was a season that we had to sacrifice ourselves so that we could seed into our children. Wasn't happy. I mean, sometimes we wasn't happy, but happiness is based on happenings. And I was happy to see my children happy. I was happy to see them succeed. I mean, and went through the ups and the downs of life, been Negro rich, been poor, been in 4, 5 bedroom houses, been homeless, drove Mercedes, drove minivans. I mean, done it all. But in whatsoever state, in whatsoever state I'm in, I've learned to be content. In whatsoever state I'm in. So that's why you can't make me doubt him, because I know too much. And the only constant through everything that I've been through, especially that, because I've told you in the past that there were moments that silence sounded like noise to me, because I was so used to having people in the house, but I was alone with me and my thoughts, and silence sounded like noise. But the only constant was that God kept sending reminders. I'm going to tell you 2 things that God sent me. He sent me reminders, and he sent me ravens. You know what ravens are? Go and read the story of Elijah at the brook of Cherith. I might teach that one next week. But every day ravens showed up with sirloin tips, with meat and bread, flesh and bread. And the thing about it is that ravens were birds that ate meat, but they held the meat in their mouth long enough to tend to the man. Elijah, it was like he was going through surgery with no anesthesia. And sometimes that's like life for us. We go through surgery because God's working on us. He's trying to get the best out of us. And sometimes surgery is necessary. But when it comes to these self-inflicted wounds, or these things that we go through because we fail to look in the mirror, we fail to create the proper environment for growth, or things of that nature, then what ends up happening is we get comfortable. But once surgery is over, nobody stays in the surgery room. But once, Alicia, you're about to go into nursing, when you come out of surgery, you go in a recovery room, and you recover from what just took place to your body, because a change has taken place. Your body has experienced trauma. When my dad had his quadruple bypass surgery, the nurse told us, we did some very traumatic things to your body. We did some violent things to your body. We took a circular saw and had to cut open your sternum. As we go, as life works on us, oh God, as we go through this thing in life where it feels like surgery with no anesthesia, but the anesthesia came in the form of the ravens, because every day God showed up. The anesthesia came in the form of the reminders, because even when you forgot, people still reminded you of your purpose. And even when you feels like you're growing up in a world, and I'm almost done, where you feel misunderstood, as you grow, as you become aware, as God begins to reveal purpose in your life, and when you sure enough have purpose in your life, he'll send reminders just to let you know, first of all, I have not forgotten about you. I still have you in my plan. You might have messed up, but self-inflicted wound, even with the self-inflicted wounds, Romans 8:28 is still applicable, because, and we know all things. So y'all don't like to say all things. Y'all like to say y'all things. But no, it didn't say that. It said all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord, for them who are called according to the purpose. Whatever your purpose is, despite what you're going through, if God has called you, I mean, and you might have grew up in obscurity. You might have had undiagnosed ADHD. You might have been a victim of some poor parenting mistakes, because we all made them. I know I've made my own. I sent Trey I could have kept Trey at home one more hour, and it would have been the difference between an A and a B. But I didn't feel like taking him to school. That was dumb. Didn't make sense. From every morning, I'm waking up yelling at Mackenzie, trying to make her hurry up and catch the bus, and I'm putting all this pressure on her, and I'm watching this child cry, and all of a sudden, a light went off. My spidey sense said, just shut up, and if she's late, take her to school. Because it wasn't worth a relationship. Is it worth a relationship? Some of y'all do that tough love stuff. That never worked with me. Never worked with me. Shown enough Elder Lisa Smith, if a barber, I've been going to my barber about 11, 12 years, so we comfortable now. But if I go to a new barber shop and I walk in, the way I'm going to tell which barber I'm going to use is by watching the people get out of the barber's chair, each barber's chair. Because if everybody gets out of the chair and all their haircuts look alike, that's not the barber for me. Because he's cutting with the template. That's not how my hair grows. My hair kind of grows in circles. It grows across. It doesn't grow down like that. So you can't cut mine and give me the most effective haircut. Children are not templates. They're individual. They have their own fingerprints. Every last one of them. But we want to put them in categories. How? Why? Because you want to be able to control the outcome? And you can still do that. But just be creative and cultivate. And if you're creative and cultivate, then watch and see what comes forth. Your children, yeah. It happens, man. It happens. But we're learning. So Samuel, if you know the story, Samuel went and he laid back down. And when he laid back down, God spoke. And when God spoke, he said, God spoke again. The Lord said, behold, I will do a thing in Israel. Well, first Samuel said, speak, for thy servant heareth in verse 10. Verse 11 said, I'm going to do a thing in Israel, at which both the ears of everyone that heareth it shall tingle. And not because before this moment, there was no open heaven. There was no open word. There was no prophet over the nation to give the people a word. The people in those days, they waited for a word. They weren't going to move until they heard a word. They weren't going to do any. They were not going to respond or do anything without hearing a word. And so he said, I'm going to give you a word, but the word I give you is going to make their ears tingle. And he starts talking about, I'm going to judge the house of Eli, because Eli let his sons run rampant. He let his sons defile the temple, and I'm going to kill them, but I'm going to raise you up. And some great things are going to happen. And let me tell you this, even if you have felt misunderstood, even if you have felt like you didn't fit in certain settings and certain situations as you grew, that doesn't mean you don't have purpose. That doesn't mean that there's not a call on your life. That doesn't mean that there's not greater in store for you. It is. But the thing is, you just have to attach to whatever that purpose is. I spoke with someone earlier today, and we talked about this stuck on the couch thing, because they said that they feel like they've transferred from the couch to the bedroom. And they wanted that to be a negative place. And I said, I feel you on that. I feel you. That could be a negative thing. But you know what I told them, Viola? I said, at least you moved. At least you moved. For a season, I couldn't go in the bedroom. I slept on the couch. I never went to bed. I didn't go to bed. I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I would try to get in the bed. And when I got in the bed, I couldn't lay there 15 minutes because the walls felt like they were closing in on me. So I would have to go get right back on the couch. That was a season of my life. So if you've got up off the couch and you're able to get in the bed, man, I mark every milestone. And when I mark a milestone, you know what I'm going to do to it? I'm going to check it off the list. Oh, what a friend we have in Jesus. Okay, yeah, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. So we got to create environments for our children to win. We got to create environments for them to be successful. I'm going to start winding this conversation down. If someone wants to testify or tell some experiences with their childhood traumatic situation, feel free to hit my line 404-860-2775. I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes, and you can share your experience with your childhood traumatic situation where you might have felt misunderstood, where you might have felt as though you might. Because you know what, the young lady that I had on last week, she said something that was powerful to me. She said, "Oh, somebody keeps trying to call. Are you hanging up, or am I just not answering the phone?" Wait a minute, what's going on here? All right, I'm about to call. I'm gonna call you back. I don't know what's going on. Why am I not receiving calls? Somebody keeps trying to call me. I would if inbox me and let me know your name and tell me who you are that's trying to call, and I'll call you back because I see a number that keeps trying to call, but I don't know why it's not ringing. I'm not going to do that. I don't know why it's not ringing because everything is supposed to be set up. But if you inbox me and tell me who you are that's trying to call, you got one you feel like you can't win. Okay, it happens that way sometimes. You can create but some rebel. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you got to do a law. And at this point, at a certain point, you almost have to do a law of averages, right? You know, nothing is absolute. You know, you're not going to get it right 100% of the time ever. But there is something that will get that attention, and you just have to find out what it is. It might not be you. It might be somebody else that you have to buffer through, you know, but you got to get somebody that's on your side, that's not going to fight against you or rebel against you. I wish I knew who this was. Let me see what that area code is so I can tell who it is, because I don't like to miss phone calls, but I don't know why my phone is not ringing. That is weird. They're calling from Washington State. Okay. Yeah, but either way, so I want to take phone calls either way, but I'm sorry if I can't. Blame it on technical difficulties because it ain't my fault. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. All right. So but we got to create that atmosphere. Samuel had to come in 3 times, and 3 of those times he was told to go lay back down. In other words, be quiet. I don't want to hear it. I'm not equipped to handle it. But eventually we redeem ourselves, because what do we do as parents? We grow up. Stuff you got wrong with the first child, you sometimes fix it with the second child. Alicia, sometimes with the 3rd and 4th child, but you know, sometimes with the 3rd and 4th child, we're tired from parenting the first 3. Does that make sense? We're so tired, so they're able to get away with murder, you know, that we couldn't have, some stuff we wouldn't have ever been able to get away with, because and so you get tired. You get a little tired along the way. So you have to get help. You have to get a supplement. And eventually, if you planted the seed right, the preacher said, I think it's Ecclesiastes chapter 11 or somewhere around the neighborhood, it said, if you cast thy bread on the water, it shall return. And the old preacher said it'll come back with butter and jam on it. I like jelly personally, grape or strawberry. But if you plant the seed and you did it right, exactly. But you know what? But that's what we do with the 3rd and 4th child. Baby, get away from me. I can't. I'm tired. Because we're tired. Life has worn us out, and we don't parent them with the same veracity that we did the first 2. You know, it starts to get a little easy. Now, I'm just talking about me. If that ain't your shoe, don't put it on. I wear size 12, so everybody don't wear the same size shoe. So if that don't fit your situation, but create an atmosphere for them to succeed, right? Like I told you, let them. This is my point. If y'all don't get anything out of what I said tonight, this is what I want you to get. Let them choose. Once they choose, you cultivate. And the way you cultivate is by being creative. You don't have the resources, figure out how to get the resources. Sometimes you got to fill out some paperwork. And it ain't always, and paperwork ain't always welfare. Sometimes people just want to sow a seed, or they want to see some people win. So if that happens, be thankful, be grateful that something like that even is happening in your life or somebody, but you got to get to the resources. I remember one time Mackenzie came over here. Well, when she wasn't living with me, she was still in high school then. And Mackenzie was having trouble with physics. I mean, she was struggling. She was crying and physics. It was hard. She was in 11th grade, I think, at that time, because she did all of her hard classes and prerequisites and maths. But anyway, she had physics and she was struggling. And so when she came in, number one, I know I don't know physics. So I Googled physics tutors or tutors for physics. And I found a tutor online, an app. And the guy came over and he taught her how to, started opening up her understanding with physics. And then he started helping her with homework assignments, and if she had to take a home test, he would help her with the test and that grade. And the more I put that environment around her, I started watching her confidence come back. I started watching her cry less. I started watching her smile more, because sometimes life is hard. We whoop their behinds enough. I mean, life whoops their behind enough for us to have to put extra pressure on them when they come home. The math they doing now, that stuff, man, please. I was pretty smart, but I ain't have it like that. But I put her in a position to win. I couldn't do it, but I knew but I knew my money could. And I found somebody on an app. And I think everybody else was charging $100 an hour, $60, $70 an hour. He was charging $25 an hour. I'm like, man, let me get 4 of those. And get 4 of those hours. Because I need my baby to understand physics, because I'm seeing her crying and struggling and she's scared she's going to make a bad grade. I could, not if I'm her daddy. Because I don't want the psychological ramifications that come from her going to bed every night crying and becoming depressed and her soul being sad. And she's always in a dark place and thinking negative thoughts, because it can happen, because depression. And see, that's what I talked about at the beginning of the show. And I think I'm going to pick up here next week. But that's what I talked about at the beginning of the show, the ACEs, adverse child experiences. So many adverse child experiences. So many of us now are reaping the benefits and the ramifications of adverse child experiences. And those experiences took place 20, 30 years ago. But so if that's the case, why would we put our same children through the same adverse child experiences that we went through, so that they can experience them for in the next 20 or 30 years? Help me out with that. Make that make sense to me. Make it make sense. If you had the power, and you do, the power to create a comfortable environment, because you don't say comfortable where it's super permissive. Dion, sorry, it keeps sending me to an automated machine. Been watching the podcast for about a year. Just okay. I appreciate that. Dion, I'm gonna call you. Hold on just 1 second. I'm gonna see if I can. I don't know what's going on, but I'll fix it. I promise you I will. Let me see if I can make a phone call, y'all. I think I got a phone call. Well, I'm calling him because my phone. This Dion. All right, let me click you in on the call. 1 second, okay? I'm sorry, I don't know what was going on, but here we go. Let me get you in. All right. 1 second, Mr. Dion. All right, talk to us. What's going on, sir?
Hey, yeah. Hey, I've been watching the show for about a year now. Just sorry, a little nervous, but just want some advice.
Hold on, do me one favor. Do me one favor. Hold on, I'm gonna count to 3 real fast. And then once I get through counting to 3, you can't be nervous no more. That's the only rule on my show. Okay, you cannot be nervous. So 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1. All right, go ahead.
Okay, hey, how you doing? Hey, yeah, sorry, my name is Dion, man. Just like I said in the message, I've been watching the show for about a year now, and just wanted some advice on, coping with trauma from being, mistreated throughout my childhood. Does that make sense?
Got you. How old are you?
I'm 28.
28. Okay. Now let me say this. I'm not qualified to give advice on how to cope with trauma because I'm not a therapist. Okay. Now I have your phone number, and I have several therapists at my I can reach out to them and I can have
Right.
them give you a phone call, because like I said, I'm not qualified to give advice. I let people tell their stories, and I try to help you make a good decision. Like if there's something specific you would like to talk about and I can kind of talk you through it, I'll be happy to do that. But as far as giving you some type of advice, when you talk about trauma, is this were you raised with a mother and a father? Were you raised with just a mother? What were your family dynamics?
Just my mom.
Just your mom?
And then grandma, granddad. But yeah, just my mom.
And how did that trauma make you feel? I mean, did the trauma come from your mom, or did the trauma come from your community? Where did that trauma come from?
Well, the trauma came from a family member. She's about 10 years older than me at the time, and she was she was doing things that she shouldn't have been doing to her, younger cousin, and I brought it up later on in life to some family members, and instead of them, dealing with it and accepting it, they told me pretty much, you're grown now. You should have brought it up then. You just need to move on from it and let it be water under the bridge. So, just trying to figure out how to, move past that and deal with that, And I've been watching your show and love everything you have to say, and just want to, kind of not unload it on you, but
no. Please unload it on me. Please unload it on me. I feel you on this one 1,000%. So let me ask you a question. How old were you when that was happening to you?
From, I say about 8 to 12 years old.
8 to 12. Wow.
Yeah.
And how has it affected you in your adult life?
I mean, before I met my wife, it was just kind of made me pretty bitter, and almost turned me into a womanizer ultimately.
So let me pause. You said before you met your wife, that's what you were bitter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Before I met my wife, and even during the relationship, it kind of took a while, but it turned me into a I really didn't too much care for how I was affecting people, women in general. So.
Yeah. And let me talk to the audience right quick, because see, so many times, you will see the tree, but you didn't see the seed. And I'm talking to the audience right quick. Give me 1 second. You're still here. I want you to stay here, but I want them to understand something, because some people miss this part. Sometimes they'll see the tree, Dion, but they don't see the seed. And they don't understand the process of the seed, the growth that took place, right? And all growth ain't good growth. You have some bad growth, because those are painful years to have to internalize or have to deal with the reality that someone that was supposed to be, that you were supposed to trust, violated you. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I've never said this before, but I can relate to that from the same point, from the same standpoint. I had an older family member do the same thing to me. I was a little bit younger than you were at the time, so I don't think I understood it as much. But as I got older, I started to understand it. And when I would see that person for a season, I started to resent them, and so when you talk about the womanizing aspect of it, and the disregard, they talk about R. Kelly and how bad he was, but he had an older sister, I believe, that was doing the same thing to him. And what it does is it leaves you over sexualized. You know what I'm saying? It makes you, hypersensitive. It makes you, it gives you confusing thoughts. But I commend you from the standpoint that although you were bitter, notice I said past tense, although you were bitter, although you were in a place, where you hurt women and all those types of things, at least God sent you one that you decided to make your wife. Now, how long have you been married?
7 years now.
7 years. Wow. And how's that relate? Does what happened to you as a boy ever affect your relationship with your wife?
Yeah, definitely early on. Like, we had our issues and had to, get closer to God and deal with those problems. But yeah, it definitely caused issues early on that we had to work through.
Do you mind telling me what those issues look like? Because somebody, believe it or not, somebody else listening right now has gone through the same thing you're going through.
Right. Just infidelity on my part.
Okay. And she worked with you through it?
Yes.
Did she understand that part of the infidelity was the root of something bigger? It wasn't, because this ain't gonna make sense to women, but Dion, me and you talking right now. Women, y'all listen, y'all get something out of it, fine. If you don't, I care, but I don't care. I'm joking. But real talk, sometimes men cheat. I put men cheating in two categories. It's either greed or need. It's either greed or need. His wife is taking care of him, but he's greedy because he's just going to step outside of himself and do whatever he wants to because he's greedy. Or it's need because it's something missing. It's a void that's missing at home. Either she's physically ill or something like my friend Dion has gone through because that need had to be satisfied. And how did you, what did the infidelity do for you? What need did it satisfy?
I mean, I couldn't even, honestly, I don't even know.
Because there's an emotion attached. There's an emotion attached to it. It's because it could be, I'm gonna get every woman back. I'm gonna get every woman back because this happened to me. You know what I'm saying? Or it could be, this is gonna prove. Go ahead, listen. I'm listening.
Yeah, definitely that plays an aspect for sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fuck you over if somebody fuck me over.
Yeah. I feel that. And people don't realize, because all they do is they see the act, but they don't understand where the act came from, right? But thankfully you have a wife. Is she older? Or y'all the same age?
I'm sorry?
Is your wife older? Y'all the same age? Okay, good.
Sorry for cussing too. I didn't mean to cuss on the podcast.
Man, please cuss. I'll be cussing sometimes too. But what were her parental dynamics?
Parents split up, but she's got a good mom and a good dad.
Okay, good. So they're both in her life. Okay, cool. So because she's a very mature woman, because most people like you, if you've been listening to my show for over a year, you've heard me use the expression where some people would rather amputate than rehabilitate. But thankfully, your wife was willing to see you through that traumatic situation, because what you went through, first of all, was not your fault. From the ages of 8 through 12, that was not your fault. You didn't deserve what happened to you. You did. Let me just say that you did not deserve it. That was not supposed to happen. She's a predator. She should be locked up because she satisfied her own personal desires as opposed to being concerned about your future. And she doesn't realize that even 20 years later, you're still dealing with the trauma from something that happened 20 years ago. And that's not fair. That's not fair. So that's not your fault. Second of all, you don't get over it, but you get through it. Thankfully, you have somebody that is able to help you get through it in your wife. Y'all have been together, you said, for going on 7-8 years now. And y'all survived infidelity. Now, let me just go and tell you this. You don't need to cheat anymore. That's just as you're a man. And as a grown man, you don't need to do that. You need to find friends who are going to hold you accountable. If you have friends that want to invite you to strip clubs and the places where single people go and all those kind of things, you don't need those friends. Those are friends you need to disconnect yourself from. Your wife is worth the investment just by the mere fact that she stuck it out with you. Because most of them cut and run. Mine stuck around 17 years after I messed up. I just never changed. But if you change, and I'm challenging you to change, young man. I'm challenging you to change as your big brother, as uncle, whatever you want to call me. You've started the process. As far as the forgiveness aspect of it, you got to do that how you want to do it. I get it. Like I said, I've been there. I've learned to forgive mine. I've learned to move past it. I'm 52 years old, though. You know what I'm saying? You're only 28. So it happened to you a lot more recent than it happened to me. You understand what I'm saying? So work your way through it. If you don't mind, can I keep your phone number? Because like I said, I want to put somebody in contact with you. Do you mind if I do that?
Yeah. No, definitely.
Okay, cool. I want to put somebody in contact with you, but we're gonna pray for you, and we're gonna keep, because if you believe in prayer, and I think you do, uh, I definitely
Yeah,
want to. I definitely want to put you on my prayer list, and I want to thank you for the courage to make this phone call. And please know that Stu Nation is praying for you. All of us are praying for you, because right now you have everybody speechless. Nobody's saying anything, and I think and I understand why. But I appreciate you for your vulnerability. I appreciate you for your transparency. And whether you know it or not, Dion, that was a strength what you did tonight. And I want to thank you for your strength. Okay. But
no,
I'm gonna have somebody. We're gonna be in contact with you real soon. Okay.
I
Oh,
appreciate
and
you, man.
Alicia just
Thank
told me to tell you you're not alone either. You didn't go through that by yourself.
Thank you.
Okay.
This is
I
the
look.
first person outside of God and my wife that I've talked to about this, and my mom. So I appreciate you, man.
Man, for real, bro. All right, man. Do me a favor.
Yeah.
Inbox me your address. I'm gonna send you a book. I'm gonna shoot you a book. Okay.
All right,
I'm gonna
thank
send you one of my books. My book is called Stuck on the Couch. But I'm sending books out tomorrow, and I'm gonna make sure I send you one, because um I sense in my spirit that you are on that couch, but I want you to get up. But I want you to get up with power, and I want you to get up with veracity. I want you to get up with the strength, and I want you to get up with a new strength. I'm going to pray now. God, in Jesus' name, I come before you on behalf of this, my brother Dion, who has exemplified strength, courage, transparency, has come forth with a testimony, God, that's going to bless others, that's going to free others, that's going to free him tonight. And I thank you for him. I thank you for his life. I thank you for his wife, his confidant, though, that one that you've placed along beside him, Father God, in these tumultuous times, considering what he's gone through, Father God. You gave him a helpmeet, someone to help him meet his obligations, to help him get through these tough times. And I thank you for her. I thank you for I thank you for him. I thank you for their union. I thank you for children. I thank you for everything that you're doing in their life. I even pray that you would touch Dion's heart, soften it where it needs to be softened, but also, God, give him the antennas to be sensitive when danger is near. So, Father God, that he can move accordingly. I thank you for all that you're going to do, for all those that are listening that might have been victims of child predators, for those that have done inappropriate touch, that exposed children to the wrong things too soon. God, I pray, God, for protection. I pray that you would help these children feel understood and realize that they have did nothing wrong, didn't deserve what happened to them, but God, that you would still give them the fortitude to make it through what appears to be dysfunction. I praise you for this phone call. I praise you for this video or this show on tonight. I pray that we would touch souls, touch hearts, that we would change lives. Thank you. And I pray that it starts with Dion. I pray that he gets the peace that he seeketh. And I pray that you would give him an unexplainable peace, one that passeth all understanding. And God, once you do it, we'll be careful to give you the praise, because we realize that every good and perfect gift comes from above, and that you alone, God, are able to provide blessings. So God, bless Dion, bless his family, bless all of those who are under the sound of my voice, and we call it done. In Jesus' name I pray, amen, and thank God. Amen. All right, Dion, you're my partner now, right? We're on the team now, right?
Yeah, definitely, man. Appreciate it.
All right, let me hear from you more often. Hit me up, send me a friend request on Facebook, and shoot me an inbox and give me that address, and I'll make sure you get your book. Okay?
All right, thank you, man.
Thank you, my friend. Oh, that call just blessed me. That call just blessed me. Y'all just don't know what people are going through. But Viola, Lori, Alicia, people going through stuff. But here we are telling them to go back to sleep. People going through stuff. We tell them to be quiet. Alicia, what if somebody would have heard you early in life? He was expected to tell at 8. Yeah, right. I'm out. You want to bless the platform? It'd be much appreciated. I'll give you the cash app. Cash app, the intellectual stew. $5, $10, $2, whatever. Anything will bless the platform. The intellectual stew. I messed up on this one a little bit, y'all. Yeah. I can relate. I had to forgive her, but I can relate. We're gonna start with ACEs next week, adverse child experiences. But y'all pray for Dion. The world is changing. My question is why? I'm going to bed on that one, y'all. He messed me up on that one. Good night. I love y'all. I'll talk to you later.
Intellectual